If you talk about Dark Souls, most people will think about rolling. It's such a core mechanic that if you include one in your game, some journalist is probably going to call it the Dark Souls of whatever genre that game is. So I decided not to use it, to see if the game still works. You could say that this is the Dark Souls of Dark Souls challenges, and you may think that it's probably not that hard. You use ranged weapons, run away from bosses, you can choose a couple of them, but that's for schoolgirls. Now melee only. Here's a challenge with some chest hair. Also, it's going to be an all bosses run, as usual. I chose the Mercenary because the dual swords we start with are straight up broken and we run to fight Gundyr. I wanted to show you the fights in their entirety as a sort of proof that I never rolled, but showing them unedited would have made a very long and boring video. Speeding them up when needed without cuts made me dizzy, so the fights are going to be edited, but in the description below you can find an unlisted video with all the boss fights back to back and unedited. In the meantime, we are beating up Gundyr because we can parry him easily in phase 1 and in phase 2 he is so slow that we can simply stand close to him and attack. He will fall down before we will. Now, since this is a rolling run and jumping ends with a little roll, I decided to not jump, so we don't need much more here and we can go to the high wall. As with the boss fights, if I were to show me running in all the areas of the game to prove that I never rolled, this video would be hours long, so I'll show you only the hardest sections and how I dealt with them. Here we want to go past the dragon. If you run, it shouldn't be a problem and you can just put to sleep the mimic with an undead hunter charm, thus getting the deep battle axe. This axe deals dark damage and it's going to prove useful against the next boss, Vort, that is weak to dark. Phase 1 is easy, his attacks are slow and we can run under his belly or behind him, where he's going to miss us and we can deal free damage. The key to this fight is to always run towards him, because if we play too passively we can get punished, since his attacks start slow but come out fast, and we don't have a real way to dodge them. I was ready to be hit by his charges in phase 2 multiple times and pray for the best, but since the phase began with me behind him, he didn't actually do them. Now we still want to be behind him or under him, but we are way more likely to be hit now, because sometimes it feels like his whole body is a hitbox. That said, we deal him a ton of damage and the fight ends. Now we go to the undead settlement, where, as always, we recruit the pilgrim. And running on the roofs works well even without being able to roll. The hardest part is remembering that we aren't allowed to do it, since it's such an involuntary reflex having played a lot of hours of Dark Souls. I went and bought a dagger from the Shrine Handmade, because its weapon art is a little dash forward that is obviously not a roll, and is long enough to allow us to clear the gap and get the undead bone shard. We meet Sigvard and we kill a demon with him to get free souls, but there is one more thing we want to do here. If we jump down here, we can survive. You may need to be Ember depending on your stats, and we can reach Irina. If she happens to die, we can get a free tower key, and now we can get the Estus and the Silver Serpent ring without doing the tree jump, since we can't jump. The Road of Sacrifices was uneventful, and in the Crucifixion Woods we can move through the deep water with the dagger weapon art. That is called Quickstep, and I call Quickstep from now on. After the warriors fall, we can proceed into Ferron Key, and again thanks to Quickstep we are able to proceed quickly in the mud, so we snuff the 3 flames and open the door. I got my 5 free levels from the pilgrim, since we only need to die a couple of times to get them, and after that I was able to buy the Dark Hand. And I know that this is the 3rd video in a row where I get the Dark Hand, but hey, if it's broken and it makes the game that much easier, I'm going to do it. I went up from Farron Keep and fought the Stray Demon, and it gives us 25,000 souls. From there I went to fight the Crystal Sage, and I think that not getting hit while getting to his location is almost impossible, but I don't think that there are enemies that can actually kill us. Here we can literally walk up to him and start attacking, we just have to walk around him a bit to dodge. I was trying to deal him some damage, but not enough to force him into phase 2, so that I could parry him in phase 1, but I messed up a bit and he went into the 2nd phase. The damage cutoff is before half HP, but I don't know the exact amount. I got lucky because he tried to do a melee attack, and I managed to get a parry that almost killed him. After that I had to simply run towards him and punch him a couple of times. Now we go into the Cathedral of the Deep, where you can get Lloyd's Shield Ring and Lloyd's Sword Ring. That will increase our defense and attack if we are at full HP. And here running through the enemies took a couple of trials, because if we get hit by any enemy here we are basically dead. Not being able to roll means that if we get staggered we have no way to get out of it. Once we reach the door we have a shortcut, and the remainder of the cathedral is pretty easy. The only other scary part is on the ceiling, but we actually have to dodge only one bolt, and then with a quick step we can go down easily. We aren't going to do this boss fight now though, because it's for sure doable, but it's mighty annoying because we could be permanently staggered, so I want to fight them when I'm stronger. In the meantime we can fight the Abyss Watchers, and I brought with me the Chestus since they can be parried. At the beginning of the fight we want to be pretty aggressive, since only one Watcher is alive. If he charges at us we can easily run away and re-engage engage right after. We can stagger him, but he will often do an attack that we have to either parry or tank. After the second one spawns, we want to go away from them and wait for the third one, since he will attack everybody. At this point, we should be able to isolate the one we want to defeat and take him down. In this challenge, we will often find ourselves in a situation where we are staggered and can't run away, but in some cases, like this one, we can fit a parry in between their attacks. Phase 2 is harder, mostly because now the range and damage are way higher, so our best strategy is to be well positioned, right on the edge of his attacks, and after he finishes his sequence, run towards him and fish for a backstab. As before, if we get hit once, it probably means that 2 or 3 more follow-up attacks are going to connect. I found parrying him while staggered harder now, but I think it's still doable. That said, our damage is really high, and one last parry seals the deal. We proceed in the catacombs, and they can look scary, but by simply running and quick stepping when needed, we can traverse them. After that, we can fight Wolnir, and this fight is really easy as always. We want to destroy his right hand bracelet first because he can move that arm around a lot, and then we destroy the other two. We don't really need to dodge in this fight. I give him some credit though, because he managed to kill me after I already won the fight, so it's more of a tie than anything else. We climb down to the smoldering lake, where we can defeat a demon for some souls, and in the actual lake, even if the ballista is able to hit us, we won't take much damage, so no problem. Here we can take the Shield of Want, that will increase the amount of souls we get, and then we can fight the Old Demon King. This fight is harder than I expected, mainly because he tracks us really well, so even if we try to stay behind him, he will turn around while attacking us, and he has many attacks that hit in a wide area around him, so we either play really carefully, running in for a hit only when we are safe, or we gamble it a little bit and keep on hitting him. I call it a gamble, because in this fight, as in many others, we suffer from a side effect of not being able to roll. When you're knocked down by an attack, you are initially immune to damage, and when you aren't immune anymore, you can cancel your getting up animation by rolling. But since we can't roll, we are always stuck in a very long get up animation, and if we happen to get hit, we can be knocked down again. This means that if we get hit and knocked down, it's basically down to luck, because if the boss chooses to keep on doing fast attacks and doesn't miss, we are dead. Nothing we can do about it. Here, it wasn't super common though, since his attacks are pretty slow, and when he goes into phase 2 he has even more slow spell-like attacks. Remember that he blows up at the end, and we can take him down. Now we go back to the Undead Settlement to fight the Cursed Rotten Greatwood, because it's a boss and we have to fight it. We have to hit his weak spots to deal damage, but the Dark Hand is still good, so in just a couple of hits we blow them up and we easily take it down. We proceed with the next logical step in a Dark Souls 3 run, and we trigger the Dancer of the Boreal Valley fight early. The Dark Hand is pretty effective against her, and since it doesn't scale very well with dexterity and strength, I only leveled vigor and endurance. And this allows us to be much more effective while fighting, because some of her attacks are fast and we can't dodge them if we don't sacrifice a good portion of our damage. With this build instead, we can keep hitting as long as we want to, and if we get hit by a sword in the chest, we don't really care. We get back up and we keep on pushing damage. When she does her big AoE damage attacks, we still have to run away. And yeah, our range is pretty short, but you'll be surprised seeing how many of her attacks will straight up miss us if we stand near her. After she falls, we can go into Lothric Castle, and that's really useful because here we can find a good amount of Titanite chunks, meaning we can easily get our swords to +9 and ditch the Dark Hand. Running in between the Hollow Soldiers isn't the easiest thing in the world, but with a couple of weak steps we make it work. We find the last couple of chunks in the Consumed King's Garden, and with newfound strength it's time to face the Deacons of the Deep. And for this fight I have with me the Sellsword Twin Blades. I mostly use the double sword attack because it one-shot kills the standard Deacons, and in general it's really good. This fight is pretty easy now, mainly because I leveled vigor and endurance, so when I get knocked down I'm less likely to die straight away because of a follow-up attack. And because I have +9 weapons, this is usually the 5th boss fight of the game. After we kill the Deacons, the main boss spawns, and the strategy is basically spam attacks against him thanks to the high stamina, the swords will end up killing everyone else that is on the way, and the fight ends. After that, I went inside the painting. We have to run in a slow field, and then we can break a bridge and climb down, where if we follow the main road and avoid jumping down between routes to create shortcuts, is a little easier. Here we can kill a tree and then climb up a very long ladder, and we can fight the Titanite Slab and upgrade our weapon to +10. It's not yet time to fight DLC bosses, so instead we go into Irithyll, where we can dodge the enemies reasonably easily by simply running near them, but if we were to be stopped by something we would probably die on the spot. In the deep waters, Quick Step comes to our aid once again, and we can avoid most enemies here pretty easily thanks to it. It's wiser to stop and defeat some enemies, but we have to pass this section only once because after we unlock the shortcut we can simply run to the boss fight. Pontiff Sullivan is waiting for us, but his first attack is also the easiest to parry, so it basically starts the fight with 25% less HP. I use the green crest shield because it increases our stamina regeneration and it's not that much harder to parry with it compared to the Chestus. Since our weapons are fully upgraded, only a couple of hits are needed to put him in phase 2, where if we are close to him and we use a gold pine bundle, we can kill his clone as soon as he summons it. If the clone lives, it's going to be much harder, because Sullivan is already really aggressive by himself. If we have to face twice as many attacks, we have almost no chance to hit him. He will knock us down a lot, because his attacks are pretty fast and in a wide area, but most of the times he will miss us when we are on the ground, so it's not that big of a deal. If he summons the clone while we are down, it can be annoying, but it happened when I already dealt him a lot of damage, so I could easily finish him off. From there we can run towards Saint Orlando, and we don't even have to dodge the arrows here. We won't fight Aldrich yet though, and instead we go into Irithyll dungeon, where we can simply run without dodging, and in the room filled with jailers we can find these ashes that allow us to buy unlimited gold plane resin, which is almost always what you want if you can apply it to your weapon. I decided that now is a good moment to fight the remaining lords, so first of all I went against Aldrich. We want to be really aggressive against them, because we have basically no way to dodge their ranged attacks, so they can be really dangerous. Their melee ones instead are a nuisance more than anything. We have so many HP that we can tank 2 of them before we need to heal, so our strategy is running against him and slashing. Obviously the fact that the twin blades deal a huge amount of damage helps. The 2 attacks we fear the most are his bow attack, because I'm pretty sure we can't dodge all the arrows by simply running, and the swipe with the scythe, because it's going to be really hard to dodge, and if we get hit they will heal for a significant amount. That said, I got lucky and they did neither, so easy win and we can proceed. The fight against Yorm is a gimmick, so we can't roll, but we can use the sword in his arena to take him easily down. Hey Francis, what? Would you call that a melee attack? What do you mean? I wasn't the one boasting about beating the game melee only. I mean, come on, okay, fine, I'll do it. If we want to fight Yorm without using the sword meant to fight him, and obviously without rolling, we have to know this fight a bit. If we hit him in the legs, we will take almost no damage. If we hit his arms, we will take more damage, and if we hit his head, we will deal even more damage. There is only one attack where we can reasonably and consistently hit him in the head though, and that's the one where he slams his machete to the ground with both hands. If we stand below him, between his feet but in front of him, not behind him, he will do that attack, so it's a matter of fishing for that attack over and over, because we are able to hit his head only once or twice each time he attacks. It's not that easy though, because he can do an attack where he slams his foot on the ground, and it doesn't deal damage, but we fly down prone, with no way of dodging it, meaning that he is able to hit us for free after that, and since he is so big, we will most likely be thrown to the ground again. But I have a shield with me, and we don't have time to run away after we get up, but we can raise our shield, and I know that everybody assumes that since his weapon is so big, there's no way that we would be able to guard it, but it actually doesn't even do that much stamina damage. After we deal around 2000 damage to his head, he will be staggered, and he is now repostable and will take a lot more damage. But if we want to deal even more damage, we can attack his head with the double swings. That won't trigger the riposte, and then riposte him properly with a one-handed attack. In phase 2 he always missed me with the follow-up attack after the foot stomp. I don't know if I just got lucky or if it's the moveset changing in the new phase, but what's important is that even the giant Yorm fell. And you know what else is important? Subscribing to the channel, it helps out a lot. We can now go into the Consumed King's Garden to fight Oceiros, and phase 1 is going to be pretty easy. He has a couple of attacks that are hard to dodge, but he doesn't attack much, so we can easily heal if we get hit. I was scared of the second phase going into the fight, but it turns out that the old strategy of being between his inner legs and spamming attacks works here too, and we will have to chase him a bit around the arena, but our damage is so high that we will stagger him at least a couple of times, and when he's staggered he takes even more damage, so we easily win the fight. We proceed into the Untainted Graves, that are pretty easy to traverse, and we can fight Champion Gundyr. I walked into this fight thinking it was going to be really easy, and instead I got killed over and over again, and my first try against him explains why that happened pretty well. We can parry him, and we deal more damage if we spam two-handed attacks compared to simply riposte him, so that after only 2 parries we will go into phase 2. While changing phases he will stagger us by doing a pose, and will charge at us dealing a ton of damage and knocking us down, and right after that he will attack us while on the ground and kill us, and we have no way to stop him from doing it. The only chance we have is getting lucky and surviving the onslaught. Or so I thought. To deal him as much damage as we can while in phase 1, we want to parry him, deal damage with swords, then poke him some more but not enough damage to push him into phase 2, and at that point parry him again, so that after the second parry we'll begin phase 2 with a little less than half HP. And now the tech to win the fight. fight. We can block the wave that staggers us. And I know that it may have been obvious to some of you, but it's been ages since I last used a shield in this game. It's something completely out of what I think is a normal strategy. Also, this shield doesn't have 100% physical damage reduction, but the improved stamina regeneration is really good, so I think it's the right choice. Also, the shield only run will come, I promise. A couple of parries later, Gundyr falls, and in the area behind him we can find the Hornet Ring, that improves damage from backstabs and riposts, so it's pretty useful. We now go back into Lothric Castle, where we have to defeat the Dragon Slayer armor in order to proceed. This fight can be really annoying, since it has a lot of attacks that are hard to dodge by running around it. It has a lot of range, so it starts to run away, and most importantly, it will knock us down almost every time. That said, if we are lucky and we are fighting on the stairs, there's a good chance that its attacks will miss us, so we can keep attacking relentlessly. If we are being chased around the arena, the shield can help us a bit, but don't overuse it, because if our guard gets broken in the middle of an attack sequence, we are almost certainly dead. If we position correctly though, since its attacks are pretty slow or have long charge times, we can keep on attacking without having to dodge or block. And if that happens, we basically deal a quarter of its HP with a single stamina bar, and that's exactly how this fight ends. Here I went and took the last weapon upgrade we need. Back at the Undead Settlement, we can kill a Crystal Lizard to get a Sharp Gem that will improve our dexterity scaling. And if you have troubles reaching the lizard before it goes away, remember that you can quit out of the game near its spawn point, and that will reset its location. Now we are able to enter the Great Archives, that are filled with enemies, so it isn't the easiest place to run through. I got the Sharp Gem because now I have 40 in both Vigor and Endurance, that I think is a good spot for resilience in a run like this where we can get hit by long sequences of attacks, so I'm going to put all my remaining levels in Dexterity to deal more damage. Also, here on the roofs there is another lizard that will drop a Sharp Gem, and we take it for later. After the stairs we can fight the Twin Princes, and I'm afraid I'll have to sweat a bit to defeat them. When the fight begins, my advice is to stand still, so that he will teleport on the spot and then run towards him. His attacks are fast, they are pretty hard to dodge if we stay close to him, since not all of them can be avoided if we walk to his left, and they are even harder to dodge if they're ranged and we don't want to run away, so chill it is. If we fight him on the small steps in the arena, he will probably miss us with his wings, but this is mostly a battle of poking and walking around him constantly. When we see him teleporting away and charging the beam of light attack, we have to figure out where he is as fast as we can and run towards him, since being behind him is the only reasonable way to dodge that attack, and if we deal him enough damage, he will be repostable for a small window of time. Also, did you know that we can parry him? It's a bit janky, since we have to parry his arms and not his sword, and he can't be reposted after, but he will take additional damage when he's staggered. Phase 2 works almost the same way, only that now they have more ranged attacks that we can't properly dodge, so we want to be even closer to them, and that means that we may need to shield some more attacks. Due to how we have to fight them though, we will mostly hit them in the back, meaning that we damage both princes at the same time, and that's a big advantage. This is obviously not the cleanest way to fight them, and you can only do it if you have a good amount of leftover Estus from phase 1, but if that's the case, it becomes pretty doable. When Lorien falls, we can attack Lothric using a Gold Pine bundle and both swords, and after that we just have to connect a couple more swings to win. We go back into the DLC, where we have to cross a snowy town, nothing particularly hard here except this enemy that can decide to one-shot kill us, and we have to fight Sir Wilhelm. He will attack us relentlessly, so the best way to fight him is either parrying him, or whenever he's a couple of steps away from us, start spamming attacks, so that he will walk into them and while he's staggered, we can keep on hitting. He falls, and after another snowy field and a room full of insects, we can unlock the fight with freedom. And I swear I didn't want to make this video so scattered all over the place, but I tried defeating Frida now and I got beaten up badly. And I mean, for sure it's doable now, but I went to Archdragon Peak first. We can fight the Ancient Wyvern the intended way. We just have to run around the arena, quick step a couple of times, and then we can fall on its head. And when I said without jumping, I obviously meant the jumping input, not falling from any height. We proceed forward, up until we reach the bonfire, and from there I try to go up to defeat Havel, to get his armor, since the only reasonable way I have to defeat him are parries and backstab, and I do not a lot of damage at all. I decided to upgrade my dagger since it has a very good critical damage multiplier. To do that, I got the ashes that allow us to to buy unlimited Titanite chunks, and since we are already leveling dexterity, I infused it with a sharp gem. Now that we have a plus 10 dagger, I went back to Havel, and with only 3 parries and 3 backstabs with the Hornet Ring, I was able to take him down. We can find his armor on the bridge where we fought the Stray Demon, and I will wear it, because since we can't roll, being over 70% weight means nothing to us, it's just a better armor. If we were to go over 100%, we wouldn't be able to run, and we couldn't even quickstep, so let's stay below that. To get the last pieces of equipment, we go into the Drag Heap, where we can find the Ring of Steel Protection plus 3, that will lower the damage we take, and the Ring of Favor plus 3, that will increase our HP, stamina, and equip load. This area is quite hard, mostly because we can't dodge effectively the attacks from the angels, so it may take a couple of tries to complete it. But there's a bonfire at the end just before the boss fight, so we just have to make it once. Now that we are fully kitted out, we can fight Frida. In phase 1 we want to fish for parries and backstabs, and after she's on the ground we can hit her freely with a charged attack if it is timed correctly. Our damage is really good and we have a good chance of staggering her for a long time, so we just have to spam attacks to make it to phase 2. Here we want to focus only on Ariandel, and our ideal positioning is a couple of steps away from him while he's attacking, so that we bait Frida into attacking us with a long range ice attack, and then we can just walk to Ariandel that will have no protection and spam attacks against him. This is the safe strat, but if we see that we can run in, get a couple of two-handed attacks in, and then get out when Frida attacks us, then we can take the risk. Also, if for any reason we can manage to hit them at the same time, our damage output will be insane. Phase 3 begins, and here we have a secret tech, the dagger. With Quickstep we can dash behind her and avoid most of her attacks, because Quickstep has some invisibility frames as long as we have focus, and also lowers our character a bit. The dagger has also a good critical damage multiplier, and since backstabbing her is what we would want to do anyway, it helps out a lot. And on top of that, it attacks really fast, so that we can interrupt her long attack sequences by stabbing her in the chest. When she falls down due to a backstab, charging an attack still works, and all that remains to this fight is aggressively quickstepping and hitting her with confidence. If we try to wait for a safe opening, we'll end up running around the arena for 20 minutes and it would create a boring fight and most importantly a boring video. Before we forget about them, we can go and fight the champions Gravetender and the wolf. At the beginning of the fight we want to use the sword and the shield, and after taking down the little wolves we can focus on the Gravetender. He can be annoying since he can attack while having his shield up, but we can parry him, break his guard and backstab him. Not to mention that if we stagger him while we are attacking with both swords, we basically kill him in one attack sequence. When he is at half HP he will summon the wolf, but we want to keep on focusing him and then fight one-on-one with the wolf. Here we use the dagger again, mostly because the wolf has a dash attack that is almost impossible to dodge without the quickstep, and it will use it a lot throughout the fight. The quickstep isn't all dodging and roses though, because it has instability frames after the invincibility frames, meaning that if we get hit in the last frames of the animation we will take 40% more damage. If you played Bloodborne, it's basically the same thing, but they can happen also in other cases in this game. In short, this means that we have to be careful with the quickstep. When it goes into phase 2, it has a frost breath attack that wait, you can stagger the wolf and riposte? Since when? Well, then the fight ends with a 2000 damage riposte. Now I can show you a little mechanical tech. In this challenge, running while rotating the camera is pretty useful, and to do it I hold my controller like this. Also, many of you wanted to see the knockoff GameCube controller used to play the game, and there it is. Also, I'm not insane, I hold it like that only when I need to do it. We can now go and fight the demons, and this is maybe the fight where the dual swords shine the most. We want to run at the demon to dodge the first attack, and then we want to be under him and keep on attacking, because most of his attacks will miss us, and even if we get hit once or twice, we won't take that much damage. We always want to be on the melee one, and ranged attacks should be easy to avoid. We just have to remember that we can't attack up to the last second, since we can't roll. They aren't well synchronized, so there will be two melee ones for a bit, and here we just want to run away, there isn't much we can do. When there is only one melee and the SWAT rolls, we can attack it, as we did before, and we can even get a riposte if we stagger him. We want to kill the demon in pain first, because I find that version of the demon prince easier, and when only one of them is left, we should be able to take him down easily. The demon prince awakens, and here we see why the dual swords are so good. If we can attack our enemy relentlessly, and we have a good stamina pool, they are almost unmatched in damage output, and in this fight we can do it easily, since if we stand really close to the prince, his attacks will miss us most of the time. If he flies up to throw a fireball, we can dodge it by running towards him, but if he flies to get back down with a slam, there isn't much we can do, and this is mostly how this fight works. It's either a really easy dodge that requires us to see simply approach him, or we will get hit no matter what, so having a good armor here helps quite a lot because we will have to tank damage. If we recognize his laser attack, we can avoid the initial wing sweep, the only attack that we actually have to dodge, and we can deal a lot of damage while he's firing the laser, so that a couple of hits later we can take him down. We make our way into the ringed city, and this first section with the Phantom Archers looks scary, but we can hide behind the graves first, and then a quick step will let us fall down. After that we just have to run behind them and we are safe. The rest of the city isn't particularly hard. Doesn't mean that it's easy, but we have to just quick step a couple of times. We make it to the bridge, where I decided to style on Midir, and after running around the area we can face him for the first time. I used my usual strategy, that is staying behind the rock until he does a fire breath attack that only hits behind the rock, and during that attack we can hit him freely, then we head again. Rinse and repeat until we get a riposte, and now we would be able to fight him, but his time hasn't come yet. We go and fight Half-Light instead, and I missed the backstab on the first Guardian, so I had to fight him at the same time as Half-Light, but it's not that big of a deal honestly. It makes sense to use the dagger for the backstab, but then the swords work better because they deal so much more damage. Having dealt with the first Guardian, we can focus on Half-Light, and we switch back to the dagger for the faster attack speed since we want to hit him at the end or at the beginning of his attack animations. After he loses a third of his HP, another Guardian spawns, and this time I got my backstab, so I was able to swiftly take him out. Now we keep on poking Half-Light, but I had enough of this fight, so I realized that it's much easier to whip out the swords, wait for him to use his bow, and run towards him with the two-handed attacks. The damage output is much better, and he falls to the ground no more than 40 seconds later. Now, I usually leave this boss for last, but it's time to fight the Soul of Cinder, and obviously I am going to fight the 3 remaining optional bosses later. In this fight, the quick step is king once again. We sometimes can dodge its swipes just by walking around it, but most of the time its range is too big, so we need a quick step. The dagger attacks pretty fast, allowing us to sneak a hit here and there, and we want to be really aggressive since we can stagger it, and if that happens we both deal free damage and we remove all the permanent buffs that it can cast on itself. When it uses Wrath of the Gods we risk dying because we get knocked to the ground, but there isn't much we can do, we just have to get a little lucky. Phase 2 is more of the same, only that I brought with me an Ancient Estus Flask to refill my focus, and that it has an attack that if connects at any point will automatically hit us for the full combo and will leave us on the ground, but it also has an insane range, so we have to either dodge it perfectly or tank it. Also, for some reason he tried to grab me for half the fight and I dodged every time. Not sure what was happening with his AI, but we take those. Now only 3 bosses remain, and they are the hardest in the whole game. We go to Archdragon Peak and start the fight against the Nameless King and his dragon. The King of the Storm part of the fight is really easy. We use the swords, because with them it takes like 5 attacks total to take him down. The Nameless King here can be annoying since it's pretty hard to dodge his attacks, but the fight should be so short that it doesn't actually matter. Phase 2 begins, and you can clearly see that it wasn't a very good fight on my part, and that is because this actually was my first try, so I was trying out different strategies looking for the best one. At first I tried using the swords, but after getting hit a bunch of times without dealing damage, I switched to the dagger. The quick step works good enough here, and it took me a while, but I managed to get a good rhythm against him where I was able to damage him consistently after dodging and between his attacks. We managed to stagger him, and when he drops to around half HP he will always do a spear slam to the ground and then will summon a lightning to hit us. And here I switched to the swords because I knew he would have been still for a while and they deal more damage than the dagger. I miss time a dodge and I get punished for it, and after a couple of quick steps I have no more focus, meaning that I have no more invisibility frames while I quick step, but I can still do it. I managed to dodge a couple of hits and tank some more when I stagger him. This is some more free damage, and now that I think about it I'm pretty sure it can be riposted. I don't know why I didn't go for it. I have to make one last risky play at the end and I managed to win just by a couple of frames. Guile is up next and he's really aggressive, so I decided to fight him with the dagger. We can't just spam quick steps though, because we have only so much focus, and while I brought with me some Ancient Estus we will need to use them in the next phases, so this part of the fight is all a matter of being really aggressive on our part too, knowing which attacks can be avoided without the quick steps and attacking him relentlessly, without leaving even a sliver of damage undone. Phase 2 is probably the easiest of the 3, since Guile doesn't move around much and has a few follow-up attacks, so we can damage him a lot in a short amount of time. I want to mention the really cool thing that is the quick step lowering your character in the animation, meaning that you can dodge the round swipe and every attack that flies above your head without invincibility frames. Phase 3 is tough, because dodging his attacks is much harder, and we have to quick step multiple times to get in just a couple of attacks, so we will have to find time to refill our focus at some point. I got hit for the first time in this fight here, but there isn't a cool strategy we can apply to win this fight. We just have to know his moveset well, dodge at the right time and take some risks here and there to deal damage. Well, there actually is a strategy that breaks him, but I think that cheesing or glitching a boss isn't in the spirit of this challenge, so you'll have to wait the next video for that. Or maybe that video is already out, so after this one go watch it. If you are doing this challenge and you aren't limited to only melee weapons, I would suggest using the Storyteller Staff. It's a staff with a weapon art that emanates the strongest poison in the game, and Guile is pretty weak to poison in general. In the end, even Guile falls, and he has a big hole on his chest. Not sure if I carved it out or it was already there. Midir is the last thing that separates us from the end of this challenge, so let's get to it. I have the dagger with me, because we have to quickstep his attacks too, but honestly I expected to deal far less damage to him. I think that is also because he's weak to thrust damage, and the dagger's first attack I'm pretty sure is considered a thrust. Here we want to fight him almost as we would fight him normally. We need to be in front of him and we quickstep his attack sequence. Then when he puts his head down we can hit it, but the main difference is that we have to be more precise with our dodges. We can only do a limited number of them, and if we get hit we will be either staggered or thrown to the ground, so most likely we are going to be hit by all the remaining attacks in the sequence. This is why we want to fight Team Ember. The additional HP help quite a lot. If I could fight him with the ranged weapons I would for sure use Pestilent Mist, that deals damage based on the target's HP, but that is not the case, so we have to fight him with the smallest knife we could find. Phase 2 is basically the same as Phase 1, but if he uses the laser attack he will stay with his head on the ground for a long time, so be ready to whip out the sword to basically kill him with just that opening. Gold Pine Resin helps quite a bit. Also remember that his fire has a much smaller hitbox than you think, and after we hit him in the head enough we stagger him, and we deal a massive amount of damage with a riposte. Now we only need a couple more hits, and with that I'll say that you can beat Dark Souls 3 without rolling. And as always, if you like the video, leave a like or even subscribe. I'll see you next time. Well, you'll see me. See the video at least. Why do we always mess up the outro? What comes after not rolling? Not being able to move at all? Wait a second, that's actually a great idea.